I genuinely don't know how to start this video off. As I've said multiple times on this channel, FromSoftware is the best developer in the industry today, and everything they've put out in the last 10 years has been straight fire. Players' faith in them has been unshakable, and when the reveal trailer for Elden Ring Nightreign dropped at the Game Awards, everybody lost their collective minds. And then we read more into it and found that it would be a co-op roguelike game, not directed by Miyazaki, learned that the parent company Kadokawa is trying to get bought out by Sony, and we were all like, no, 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 wait. This game's a cash grab. They might actually pull a modern gaming and try to milk their most successful IP to look better for Sony investors so they can be acquired. FromSoftware has been the antithesis of AAA development for years now, so to see them make a game like this, it definitely scared me. But hey, we gotta at least give them a shot, so let's play it and find out. And the result is polarizing. Very, very polarizing. As for myself, I have done something that I never thought I would ever do. I played a FromSoftware game and haven't finished it.
What you say is heresy, is it?
I have fought all 8 Night Lords, beaten 4 of them, and while I do plan on fully completing it, Nightreign is a game where you could kind of figure out what the game is probably 2 runs in. So despite me not fully finishing it, I feel like I've seen enough. I don't think there's anything more I could see that could change my opinion, unfortunately. Now, do I think that Nightreign is the weakest FromSoft game since Dark Souls 2? Yes. Do I think it's a trash game? No. I generally like the game, and I had a ton of fun with it. It's a good game, but as a roguelike, it's not where it needs to be, and there's a ton of things missing that should be here as a co-op game. Like, you know, voice chat. But okay, what specifically about Elden Ring Nightreign makes it just a good game, and why exactly is it getting the mixed reception that it has? Well, time to ride my giant bird. So strap in, boys and girls, and let's get down to business. So in Nightreign, you are dropped into Limveld, the smaller alternate version of Limgrave from the real game, and the objective is to run around the map, killing enemies and collecting as much loot as you can before the literal storm from Fortnite rolls in and shrinks the map. By the second shrink, you have to make your way to a very specific part of the map and fight a bunch of different enemy types before the night boss comes in. Beat the night boss, and you move on to day 2, where you do the same thing, until day 3, which is where you fight the actual Night Lord. This game is much more fast-paced than base game Elden Ring, and honestly, any Souls game you've ever played. God forbid you have to take a piss break. You're holding that shit in. I mean, I guess that too. As you've heard, Nightreign can be played either solo or with trios. Why do they not have duos? Because they forgot to put it in. What? I mean, at least they're honest about it. But you can tell while playing that this was specifically designed for co-op, because there's always a ton of enemies bunched up in a certain spot. Like, right when you land, there's gonna be a camp, or something that has up to 10 soldiers in it, or creatures, or enemies, or whatever. Now, they can be taken out easily, but that's a co-op layout if I've ever seen one. I remember the Iron Passage. Do you? I hope you don't. Every camp and point of interest is also chock full of enemies, and mini-bosses will sometimes just be 3 big enemies mixed into 1 health bar. It really is built for co-op, and honestly, co-op is the best experience for this, especially when all 3 of your boys just proceed to skin a mini-boss alive. That will never not be satisfying. At least when it doesn't take 84 years to matchmake. I've got places to be! But, big problem with this. How do you make a fast-paced co-op game in the year of our Lord 2025 and not have any ability to communicate with your teammates? This is not a traditional Souls game. If you want to be effective, you have to be in sync with your team. You can't just have no ability to talk to your teammate who's running off on his own to a random corner of the map.
This space, where the hell were you two?
Or when you get to day 3 and nobody on your team moves, are you having dinner? Are you taking a shit? Fuck if I know, we can't say anything.
Wake the fuck up!
But sometimes you can communicate through pinging, which thank God that exists. I mean, at least there's something we have to work with, but that's the bare minimum. And also, no crossplay? Why? I mean, at least in order to revive your teammates, you have to physically attack them, almost like you're showing your disdain for their failures. I like this way more than I should, but aside from co-op play, up until they released their latest patch, solo play was rough. The rune count you would get would be the same as in co-op mode, but you were the only person, so you couldn't cover as much ground, which would leave you completely underleveled by the time you got to the night boss. But oh, look at that. The patch addressed exactly that. Now it's much better to go through, but you still have to deal with multiple enemies. But to give them credit here, what I absolutely love about this is that the enemy aggression in solo mode is toned down. So if you walk into a camp and everybody notices you, you're not getting swarmed by everybody right away. You still might get ganked if you're close enough to them, but most of the time they hang back and wait for their turn, which, thank God they got that part right. If this was anything like Dark Souls 2, I would have thrown my controller out the window. But aside from that, honestly, the best thing I could say about this game is the gameplay. It's Elden Ring gameplay. It's phenomenal. You can't screw that up. And since this is a faster game, the movement is quicker for it. In all honesty, this feels amazing. Everything flows so well. You get a wall vault like in Sekiro. You can launch yourself in the spirit stream. You get a super sprint, which makes you wonder why they kept the normal soul sprint. Like, why is that here? Nobody's ever going to use that? And because the game is faster paced, that leaves the player to make decisions on how much time they want to spend in a certain area. Do you want to try and clear out this castle of Crucible Knights? Well, that's going to take a lot of time. Time you can spend getting the same weapons in other places before the storm closes in, so you might as well just ditch this and do something else instead. And rather than building a character out how you want, you have different classes you could choose from. 6 at the start and 2 you unlock later in the game. Wilder specializes in greatswords, Guardian Birdboy focuses on halberds, Iron Eye is the ranged bow and arrow specialist, Recluse is the mage build, Raider is the Asmongold build, and my personal favorite, the Executor, uses katanas and other weapons that apply bleed damage or just general arcane stuff like poison. So he's really the only one you should be using. As you progress, you unlock the Duchess, which is the thief class, focusing on daggers, and the most unique one, Revenant, which summons spirits to aid you, including the spirits of enemies you already killed. And each class has 2 special abilities they can use, a minor and a super ability, such as Duchess turning everybody invisible, Iron Eye getting a super shot, Wilder bloating his load, and Executor straight up becoming a boss. And they all have their own critical hit animations, which look great, by the way. I'm gonna be honest, I really like the class system in this game. With a game like this, I think it gives players the opportunity to try out builds that they normally wouldn't use in base Souls games. Like, I wasn't thinking I would use a bow class, but I started doing it, and it goes great. And when it comes to team composition, most of my runs were completed with an Iron Eye in the party. So yeah, guys who could use him can absolutely take advantage of him. Also, some more unique things is that Nightraign's leveling system is way simpler. Rather than putting points into certain stats, you just press level up and everything scales randomly. And if you die in the world, you'll lose a level and have to work from there, until you get to the night bosses where you can actually fail on the run. So now we have what I think is the good of Elden Ring Nightreign. Now let's talk about the bad. So let's start with the most obvious problem with this game, the map. Limveld is the same map for every run, with the same points of interest every time. Now, the type of enemies that are going to be there are switched around, but it's mostly the same stuff that you're running into. It's not bad locations, outposts with different enemies that drop weapons with the themed effect, caves where you can get a smithing stone too to upgrade rare weapons, churches where you can add flask charges. Like, I never feel like I'm wasting my time in this game, but again, it's the same stuff every time. Roguelikes usually switch up the levels to keep the gameplay fresh and not feel like you're doing the same thing again and again. Having Limveld be the static map does the game zero favors, and runs start to feel like you're just going through the motions. But this is the problem with having a set map be your format for the game, because there's really not a lot of things you can do to spice things up here. They do try and change things up a little bit with some world events later in the runs, like locusts attacking you and stealing a level. There's a tornado that appears over a location that buffs the enemies in the area, and probably the most substantial thing they do the shifting earth events, which involves things like a giant volcano crater in the center of the map or a snowy mountaintop. I also heard there's a Scarlet Rot swamp and Eternal City areas, but I haven't encountered that in any of my runs so far. I think I gotta beat more bosses for that to come up, but you know, I've said my piece on that. Oh, and Morgoth can also invade you.
There is no escape for thee, little pillager, bent on sacking the lands of God.
But throughout the game, you can spirit away on these spectral hawks that will take you to the other side of the map, which is great for traversal. Wait, he can follow me? What? The purpose of this is that these new spots on the map have harder mini bosses that drop better loot, and once you get to the center of the area, you'll get a special reward. But I can't help but feel they should have been completely separate maps in general. Like, each Night Lord should have had a different map. Like, the first one, you have Limveld, and then the next you'd have Lierniveld, or K-Veld, Altveld, Nachtveld, Gelmveld, or something like that. Switch things up. They have a ton of areas in Elden Ring. You're telling me you can't make use of that? It would make each run feel unique and give it its own identity rather than the skybox is purple this time. But instead, we just have to cut out parts of the map with a reward right in the center. Like, which, speaking of rewards, that brings me to the drops. The weapon drops in this game are tailored to whatever class you're playing as. Like, if you're playing Executor, you're gonna get mostly weapons that have bleed effects or poison effects. Wilder is the balanced all-rounder, so you're gonna get a range of great swords and piercing swords. You get it. Depending on what your class is, you're supposed to get weapons that support that class. But the drops are also inconsistent as hell. For instance, why am I playing as Iron Eye and getting sword drops? If Duchess is saying that strength weapons are not her forte, why am I getting them? I really could use another bow right now. Let's see. Oh, there's absolutely no reason why I should be getting weapons that don't apply to my class. When I'm Wilder, I don't want to get only crossbows. That's not what I'm playing Wilder for. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've played as Iron Eye and not gotten a bow drop. It's ridiculous. Even if it's worse than I already have, just give it to me. I'm an archer. But then you get to the perks you pick up, and this is where we start to fall off a bit. The perks you can get for defeating bosses are like literally 50-50. There are interesting ones like enemies dying at any point regardless of HP, attack power increasing after critical hits, blood loss to enemies without low HP. Like, that stuff is cool. But I also feel like there's way too many boring perks. Stuff like max health up, stamina up, poise up, physical attack up, which in all honesty should be taken care of when you level up rather than being a base perk drop. If you already have a leveling system in place that enhances your basic stats, then you need to save the perk drops for actually interesting things. A game like Hades can get away with having a stat increase drop because of the fact that there's no leveling system already taking care of it, so the only way you can get stronger is if that drops. But in Nightreign, it feels like the opportunity to do more cool things that may even contribute to your playstyle was wasted. The only one I could really think of changing up how somebody acts mostly revolve around casting things when you're walking slow. Which, yeah, I mean, if you want to look like a badass, go right ahead. But in a game where you gotta go fast, that completely goes against the game's core functions. But then, we reach the truly bad. Chests are f***ing useless. Most of the time, chests in Nightreign drop consumables and low-tier weapons. Shit that you are never going to use. I don't even use consumables in the real game. Why would you fill chests up with it? Out of all my runs, there was maybe only one time I got something useful out of a chest, and it just so happened to be Rivers of Blood. I somehow got that out of a chest, like, honestly, just felt out of place. Everything else, low tier. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is pathetic. Why don't you have chests that specifically drop high tier loot, rather than having a 2% chance of dropping something useful with every chest you see on the map? It would make them actually mean something, like get you excited, like, oh, that's a different type of chest. Oh, I'm gonna get a better weapon or like a better talisman out of it or something. But no, that doesn't happen. What are these, IOUs? But in every roguelike, when you go on a run, you expect to get something that you can take back with you, that you can make your character stronger, more health, more damage, more weapons. You know, it feels like you're making progress. You get that in Nightreign in the form of the relic system. And it sucks. It's not good. Let me put it like this. When I'm sitting down and looking at my entire catalog of relics, because I've gone on so many runs, and most of the time I'm like, I'll wait for something better. That's a problem. Most of these relics give you shit that is so minor, it barely makes a hint of difference. It'll be things like, once again, vigor up, magic attack up, mind +1, dexterity +1, which, by the way, some of these relics will just have perks thrown together. Like, they just threw at a dartboard and decided, okay, let's put that here. Like, changes compatible skill to lightning slash at the start of expedition, and magic attack up. Alright, don't know what those two things have in common, but I guess. Arc gauge fills up moderately upon critical hit, and glintstone scraps in possession? Now there are some ones that do have weapon afflictions, like starting weapons also dealing poison, coupled with increased attack power when enemies around you are poisoned. Okay, like that's a good relic, but that's just a drop in the pool of mediocrity. A system like this should not feel this underwhelming, and I really think they missed the mark with the relics. All in all, I think the progression and drops in Nightreign are probably the most underwhelming thing about this. But the real question is, how did they handle what we really came here for. How did they handle the boss, baby? So like I said earlier, Nightreign was clearly designed with co-op in mind, and you can look no further than how the bosses are designed. Most of the time, the night bosses will be made up of 2 or 3 bosses at a time. There are single boss fights, but their health is buffed to absolute oblivion. FromSoftware, can you do a peasant a small favor and nerf the dragon's health? Jesus Christ!
Why won't you die?
And a lot of these bosses are bosses you've seen in Elden Ring. The Bell-Bearing Hunter, Tree Sentinel, Blackblade Kindred, you know, the guys you whooped up on in the real game. But sometimes, as you've seen in the trailers, Nightreign also has bosses from Dark Souls. Yeah, the Soulsverse is real, and it hurts like a bitch. You have bosses like the Centipede Demon, Duke's Dear Mid... Why are you back? The Nameless King? What? But unfortunately, those 3 bosses you saw in the trailers are half of all the Dark Souls bosses. Yeah, there's only 6 in here. Do I want to say what the other 3 are? Should they? Nah, I'm not going to say what the other 3 are. You guys should figure it out. I'm not going to spoil it. I'll give you a little riddle to figure it out. Massive, run back, ass. Go figure that one out. But going back to the multi-bosses for a second, when I tried to do this solo, I got terrified. When the Tree Sentinel and the 2 Royal Cavalrymen showed up, I was like, oh hell no. But just like the enemy aggression tuning, the 2 Cavalrymen don't even come after you, like ever. They just ride around until you get in their zone. And this is true for many, if not all the other multi-fights, which on one hand, I really appreciate them doing, because getting ganked by 3 bosses would make me want to stick my hand in a blender. But on the other hand, if they're just gonna go play with themselves in solo, why not just have the Tree Sentinel in solo play? That one in particular doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe they just couldn't change it, I'm not sure, but it still feels weird. But that's the night bosses. Now we get to the Night Lords. And I'm gonna be honest, I wish I had more to say about them. Up to this point, I've faced them all and beat 4. Now, don't get me wrong, all of them are cool. Like, really cool. They have spectacle, especially in Phase 2. The music, at least, when I can hear it, is great. But, Jesus Christ, dude, all we get is AoEs. While I think the bosses are all incredibly cool, aside from the last boss, fighting them is annoying. Yeah, these guys are designed for co-op. Trying to take these guys on solo is a nightmare. Barely any attacks are meant for just one person. Whether it's creating a massive ice storm that covers the whole arena, frenzy geysers popping up all over the place, Gladius splitting into 3 separate dogs, which try completing that on solo. Oh no, look, the boss ran away again. We learned nothing from Elden Beast. It sucks that I really can't go into depth with these boss mechanics because honestly, half the time, I don't even know what's going on, since the best way you could fight them is in co-op. And when you're in co-op, the Night Lords become more tanky than Dempsey, so everybody on the team needs to be constantly attacking the boss to even have a shot at beating them, while still avoiding the attacks it doles out, so the fights just turn into pure chaos, which can be fun for some, but for me, it feels like more of a mess, honestly. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no doubt that if you tried these solo, you can learn the mechanics and can get through them. But as somebody who has played every Souls game multiple times, these are the most frustrating to learn because I'm fighting something that's not designed to be fought alone. And when you fight with a team, you don't have the luxury of trying to learn because you have to deal so much damage to them that it becomes less about learning and more about attacking, especially if your team is not at a good skill level. I'm not saying the bosses are bad. I'm just saying that these are the reasons why I have nothing really in depth to say on them, because all of them can be described with 3 letters. AoE. Although I will say, hands down, the coolest one is the actual Night Lord himself. I won't spoil it, but damn, boy! So unfortunately, I don't have anything else to say on them, and while I do think they are cool, I didn't get as much satisfaction out of fighting them as I wanted to. And from a developer like FromSoftware, how could you not be disappointed in that? Hi there, hello, post-edit ZD Boy here, coming to you after beating every Night Lord. I know, I'm great, thank you, but I couldn't have done it alone. I realized I forgot to put this in the first draft of the video, and now that I've beaten everybody, it's even better. I played with randos because none of my friends wanted to get the game, so I would like to say a special thank you to everyone who helped me conquer Nightreign. Special thanks to Daddy's Girl and Zach for Gladius, Dang and Dirtfield Hooker for Adele, You Are Forgiven for just standing there for 20 minutes, Jake and Iandel for Noster, Iron Eye's looking real good right now. Touch Me Not and Da Bashful Bunny for helping me tolerate Maris. Vike and Foul Varnished for Fulgor, even though instead of going through the Spirit Realm, you stayed and fought more enemies outside the circle for some reason. Don't know what that reason was. Voice chat would have been real helpful there. JFC, An Ogre, and Grievous Failure for helping me absolutely massacre Libra with his own medicine. Big Balls and Ginsburg, that's a TV name if I've ever seen one, for helping me survive Caligo. And finally, Mirza97 and Icarus910 for being there by my side as we conquered Nightreign. If any of you guys somehow see this video, thank you so much, and I will never forget it. Now, with all of this considered, I do think Elden Ring Nightreign is a good game. I don't think you can play this and say that it's bad. You could say it's an underwhelming roguelike, but there's still enough here that makes it baseline good. But when you're talking about a developer like FromSoftware, being baseline good is equivalent to a massive dumpster fire that should never be talked about again. But I don't think it's fair to hold this to the same standard, because again, this is a first-time director doing something different with a cheap price point of $40. I never expected it was going to be a masterpiece game. However, I do think if FromSoftware wants to do another roguelike, they have to make this experience feel more fresh, and they need to come up with better ways to keep players invested. And when it comes to multiplayer, not having communication features is a baffling choice that cannot be made ever again, and it needs to be added to this game as soon as possible. Take notes, Duskbloods. Do not make the same mistake. I do appreciate Miyazaki letting other creatives helm different projects though, and if you're going to survive as a company, you need to give other people the experience to apply what you've been teaching them. And honestly, as a first-time director, Junya Ishizaki did a fairly good job. I think he'll learn from this and get better. But again, we all have to start somewhere. If I had to summarize my feelings on Nightreign, it's that I had fun with it, but it's not as good as it could have been, even with the knowledge that it wasn't made by the A-Team. This is definitely a weird one because you could go either way with this, but in my opinion, Elden Ring Nightreign is a firm 7 out of 10.